Hello, I'm Torgeir Hovden. I'm co-founder of Signatu with George over there. So I'm a software guy, primarily. I'm going to talk about third-party trackers, or more generally, third-party plugins, services that run as a part of a website. And this is just an example of some of the services out there. If you go to a website, it is very likely that there is at least a third party that collects data that should be considered personal data. So data controllers will have this problem in having control over these third parties. And we're developing technology to help them get control of that. So the kind of third parties they use are for tasks like analytics, customer relationship management, social, and of course marketing, advertising, and other things as well. So one of the areas where this becomes very complex is that of programmatic advertising, where third parties are including other third parties based on a dynamic bidding model. And the publisher, the website owner, does not have a lot of control what happens down the line. So this is basically the problem. So the company provides some service, maybe it's a free service, they need to monetize that through ads, for example. They include a couple of ad providers, and those ad providers will directly and indirectly source in a lot of other third parties. Either through audience beacons or as trackers running inside of the ads and so forth. And if you're a newspaper, how can you get control over all of this? Because I think it's pretty clear that you need to know what's going on as a data controller. So this is an example from our Trackerdetect tool of a typical iframe. So an iframe is an isolated piece of a web page that is running in a separate domain. So the separate domain has full control over what is happening inside of that and can load whatever it chooses. So this particular example, and this is not very special, is that there's an ad platform called AdForm that will load these 30 other advertising technologies and or trackers inside of this frame. And they will do stuff like you've heard earlier today, fingerprinting and so forth. And as a rule, the way the web security works is that the website owner does not have any control to enforce what is going on inside of that frame once it's been placed on the site. So what we've done is to build a cloud service that monitors websites to detect third-party services and trackers running on their websites. And the purpose of this is to give publishers and website owners control over what is actually happening on their site. Because if you go ask any newspaper, for example, they will be hard-pressed to name the third parties. So this is not a tool to sort of block or anything like that. It's a tool to give a data controller information that they will need to act on in terms of removing third parties, getting data processing agreements, and so forth. So I'm not going to spend much more time on this. Just one more point is that we are also originating the traffic, so sending the traffic through a VPN network, because these third parties are loaded depending on where the traffic comes from. So if you load everything from Norway, for example, and access a site here in Austria, you will not get a lot of interesting stuff going on, because advertisers will not want to target a person in Norway. So, as I mentioned, we are helping data controllers get this information, and then the next step is to give them tools to act on that information. So, who's the legal entity behind it? Who do I contact? What are their privacy policy? If there's an opt-out link, how can I include that into my policy, and so forth. So this is what we're working on. If there's network on this, I can give a very, very quick demo. No. But in practice? No? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not able to do a demo. So I guess that's it.
Maybe I start the questions, Torgeir.
Yep.
What happened to the tool that you presented us last year? Can you give us a brief update on that one?
So last year we did a presentation of our model for consent, and we are working now with some big companies on prototyping that in actual production. So we're moving down the line with that one. So sure. Yes. So it's not a product in the market, but it will be probably this year.
Thank you. But I just took this question possibility. So are there any questions on the detection tool?
So today we discussed several times that users are tracked, but there is a lot of tracking happening by the third parties online. I'm not sure if this works.
Yeah. It works.
Okay. And the question is, so we talk about this in this kind of closed community here, and this topic is also addressed in our privacy conferences, but how do we actually reach to individuals, and how do we explain them or provide them with incentives to go for different types of service platforms that, for example, require payment?
Yeah, so that's a very good and interesting question. So for Signatu, we've specifically chose to help companies get this information so that they can get their own agreements and so forth in order. So we're not trying to address that question, but our customers will have to deal with that. Obviously, the way that you pay with your data online. It will be interesting to see how the GDPR and the privacy regulations will sort of shift that. But yeah. Okay. Any other?
Hi. Is it on?
Yes.
Okay. So we are currently working on a very similar system as academics from university. And we're obviously not going to do a commercial service from it, but I just wanted to ask you, in your service, do you also plan to look at things like, we already talked today once about fingerprinting and all of that, do you also check what the third parties are doing, or only what third parties are actually included?
Yeah, so our first step is to identify the third parties. The next step will be to do some sort of risk assessment to help companies understand what are these third parties doing. And as part of that is what you're asking for, I think. So yes, but we haven't come that far yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so did you have any feedback from the Norwegian Data Protection Authority about this tool?
So he's my co-founder, so he wants me to answer this. So yes, we too went to the Data Protection Authority to discuss this with our customers, and they basically said that websites, media sites, newspapers need this kind of tool. So either our tool or some other tool that is similar in order to have control over what is going on. So that was their feedback. Okay?
Have you thought about a solution to deal with third parties and third parties of third parties who encrypt their content?
Yeah, so the short answer is no, we haven't thought very deeply about that. What we have thought about is the problem of third parties with the web platform, where from an end user perspective, if you go to a website and content appears on the website, you perceive that as being part of the website. But the web security model is that it's not, right? So either you need, as the website, to say that you're not allowed to run anything inside of an IFrame on my site because you are pulling in others that I have no control over, or there needs to be an interaction where they tell the third party that, you know, this list of third parties are okay and this is not okay, and so forth. And protocols for that does not exist. So this is also something we're exploring.
Okay, thank you very much.